Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. I trust you had a great weekend. It's certainly gotten rather cold over here. We've been having lots of rain. In case you've forgotten, we're holding a Mindspeak after a long absence tomorrow at the Sankara this time, a one-off event from 5 p.m. Seats are limited. We've got about 100 seats, so do bear that in mind. Of course, we're hosting Stephen Jennings, who is really a personality who will be very interesting. And his latest project is Tartu City, amongst several projects he's got going in Africa, real estate projects. Kenya tweets some wonderful photographs and tweeted this one, awesome shot of the Mount Kenya summit. And I think you'll have to agree, it was awesome. And then Safari254 tweeted Mount Kenya in the sunrise, sweet waters serena, and that was a lovely photograph as well. And that took me back to Dr. Zeus for some reason. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is what it will become. According to The Guardian today, they've got a selection of the 100 best novels, and number 90 is A Bend in the River by V.S. Naipaul, which is really a tremendous book. I haven't read it for a long time. I'm going to go and find it and reread it. Bend in the River, V.S. Naipaul has written with that hint of creative inscrutability he cherishes, remains mysterious. At the same time, however, it is perhaps the novel that most nearly touches the author's inner concerns. Salim, who comes from the east coast of Africa, from a long-established Indian trading family, uproots himself to the heart of an unnamed African country as a merchant and sets up shop in an unnamed town at this bend in the river. Salim, like Naipaul himself, is under no illusions about his move and declares in a celebrated opening line, "The world is what it is. Men who are nothing, who allow themselves to become nothing, have no place in it." Harsh. And when at the end the character Ferdinand urges Salim to flee for his life, if he does so in language that seems to open a window onto Naipaul's inner vision, we're all going to hell, and every man knows this in his bones. We're being killed, nothing has any meaning, it's a nightmare. Nowhere is safe now. It is a remarkable book, and of course I had that quote on Thursday. It isn't that there's no right and wrong here. There's no right. It's pretty powerful as well. Number 10 tweeted, PM joins G7 leaders for start of summit in Schloss Elmau. This is regarding the G7 summit, which was held over the weekend. And then Sharina Sinau tweeted, G7 summit, Barack Obama enjoys a traditional Bavarian welcome. I did German at school, and we went to Munich when I was about 16. Really, it was one of the most fabulous times I ever had. The beer they drink, and if you look at that photo that Obama's got, he's holding something called Ein Maß. It's like a liter of beer. The Germans can drink a lot of it. I think I certainly would not be able to anymore, that's for sure. Philippine Defense Minister gravely concerned over reports Chinese warship fired warning shot in South China Sea. Coincidentally, this was at the same time that Mr. Aquino was visiting Tokyo. If indeed this happened, it is a cause of grave concerns, the Defense Minister Voltaire Gazmin, where he has been accompanying, from Tokyo, where he has been accompanying Benigno Aquino on a 4-day state visit. In Tokyo, Mr. Aquino signed a visiting forces agreement that will allow Japanese military aircraft and naval vessels to use Philippine bases to refuel and resupply. The move will extend Tokyo's range of operations into the South China Sea. Quite convenient timing, I suppose. Turkey elections, we should have started with this. President Recep Erdogan's party loses its majority in poll triumph for country's Kurds. Thousands of Kurds took to the streets in Turkey on Sunday night after the main pro-Kurdish party won enough votes to enter parliament for the first time. The general election also delivered a major blow to President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who had been hoping that the ruling Justice and Development Party, the AKP, would increase its share of the vote to allow it to change the constitution and hand him more power. However, with 99% of the vote counted, AKP appeared to have lost its parliamentary majority after getting about 41% of the vote. That's a big loss. Down from 49%, 8 percentage points since 2011, with the main secular opposition party, Republican People's Party, in second place on about 25%, and the National MHP in third on just under 17%. I think that's a big loss. This result shows that the country has had enough of Erdogan and his anger. I think that's right. It's a bloody nose and some more. Put up a photograph of Erdogan. He tweeted end of May when he was campaigning in Istanbul. I'll put up another photograph from Yahoo News of his palace. And I, for one, am not unhappy that he's been knocked down to size. I think he's played a dirty role in Syria, various other places. And I think he espouses a sort of fundamentalist approach, which I really don't agree with. Between the hammer and the anvil, how ISIL has spelt doom for Iraq Sunnis. And this point is sort of forgotten in the mix, isn't it? That actually the Sunnis are caught in a trap between these sort of fanatical ISIL and on the other side others. It's just appalling for them too. I like this photograph of The Guardian tweeted that the late Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini is greeted by supporters after arriving at the airport in Tehran on the 1st of February 1979. And this story is about the Israelis who were asked to assassinate the Ayatollah and then didn't. This quote caught my attention, but there is a case to be made for the centrality of very charismatic leaders, and so for the consequences of their disappearance, essentially saying, knock them out, it changes everything. North Korea tweeted this photograph, and I got it via The Guardian. This is of its president. I thought it was quite interesting. Rescuers in protective suits prepare to board the righted Eastern Starship, which capsized last week in the Yangtze River. I'll put up a photograph of that. And in a very interesting piece in the New York Times, SEAL Team 6, the US Special Operations Unit, best known for killing Osama bin Laden, has grown into a global manhunting machine. Currency markets have been all over the place. The euro was below 111 briefly, it then topped 111.70 and now is at 111.36. Dollar index probably around the 96.25 level. Japanese yen 125.43, but that's been up and down quite dramatically this morning. Swissy 0.9394, Aussie 0.7622. India rupee above 64, the figure. South Korean won 11.1962, Rial 3.1432, Egyptian pound 7.6367, and the rand 12.5566. Hunt Sader tweeted close up of currency pairs before and after yesterday's Friday's non-farm payrolls number. Have a look at that. It's pretty visually arresting. Dollar yen, I'm going to put up a 1-year chart. I mean, we've clearly broken higher, but at any moment we could see some pretty dramatic pullbacks. We're right now at 125.40, and bear in mind that the economy grew 3.9% in the first quarter, beating, I think, a lot of estimates. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart, and I'm still bullish about that, though President Obama's come out on the wires complaining about the dollar. Holger Zajpitz, who tweets interesting tweets on Twitter, euro drops like a stone after good US jobs data. I'll put up that image, you can see, but it's found some support down below and has come back a little bit. But of course, there's a very big correlation between the German Bund and the euro. There's been a big sell-off in the Bund market in the last few weeks, which has supported the euro higher. And again, Bund's extended losses in worst week in more than 16 years, surpassing any sell-off seen during the euro era. Any sell-off seen previously in the euro area. Euro dollar, I'll put up a 3-month chart, 111.41 last, but whizzing around and sort of tracking the yen. The European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker on Sunday openly accused the Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras of distorting proposals by international creditors for a cash-for-reform agreement and of dragging his feet in offering an alternative. Pretty hard-hitting. It seems like they are completely falling out with each other, said Reserve Bank's Omata. Brazilian billionaire Lemann studies bid for Diageo. This report came out late Friday. Interesting. Jorge Paulo Lemann and his partners in private equity firm 3G Capital are considering a potential bid for Diageo, the world's largest producer of spirits. Lemann, who is Brazil's richest man, and partners Marcel Teles and Beto Sicurupira. Initial stages of studying a buyout offer for Diageo. The magazine did not elaborate. Reuters has not independently confirmed the report. US-listed shares, because obviously this announcement came out in US time, jumped 8.7% on the report to close at $118 an ADR in heavy trading, the biggest gain in 6.5 years. Diageo had no immediate comment. Interesting, isn't that? Very aggressive. Put up a photograph of Jorge Paulo Lemann playing tennis. And he's obviously got Ivan Menezes in his sights. And I'll put up a photograph of Ivan, myself, and Charles Ireland. And when Ivan said, if he was asked if there was one drink you could take to a desert island, he said, I would take Johnny Walker Black Label. There's also an interview with Charles Ireland of EABL, and I'd be surprised if we didn't see a little pop higher in the EABL over the next few sessions. So over to you. Deutsche Bank says Fitch Jane to step down early from roles, names John Cryan to succeed after underperformance. And let me put up the image of the share price, and you can see what a period of underperformance it has proven to be. OPEC opens the oil spigot, says Bloomberg View. As expected, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries agreed Friday to maintain crude oil production at 30 million barrels a day. In effect, that means a license for both OPEC and non-OPEC producers to increase output as they see fit. Saudi Arabia intends to continue its price war on US shale that was interrupted by the recent speculative upswing in crude prices. It was highly speculative, and I'll show you something. Oil prices plummeted last year after OPEC, led by the Saudis, refused to cut output in response to a global glut. This has already cost the oil industry about 100,000 jobs and as much as $1 trillion in scrapped investment projects. Yet the main players have only increased output. In April, according to the IEA, OPEC supply was at 31.2 million barrels a day, has since September 2012. That was the 12th consecutive month that OPEC production was above the official 30 million barrel limit. And Saudi Arabia was also pumping as fast as it could, keeping its output above 10 million barrels a day. Its enthusiasm was, however, surpassed by the biggest non-OPEC oil power, Russia. In May, it extracted 10.7 million barrels per day, compared with the Saudis' 10.2 million barrels. It was the first time Russia took the global lead since 2010. The US oil industry, too, did its best to show it was not intimidated. In May, it produced an average of 9.4 million barrels of crude per day, 2.7% more than in January, and the most since 1972. So far, the attrition rate has not been that high. And this is the point I agree with. For now, financial speculators are playing an outsized role in maintaining the current price equilibrium. Once something spooks them, frackers will be in for another round of shock therapy. I agree with that totally. Holger again put up a very interesting chart, a long-term chart of the price of crude. I'll put that up. But Zero Hedge came in and tweeted crude recursive stop hunting Virtu algo formation. There's been this Virgo people who've been trading it up and down, just hunting stops up and down between 58 and 62.50, and you'll see it from his diagram. Once they stop doing that, I mean, we're going straight down to 50. And I was wondering to myself a little bit, conspiracy theory-wise, whether if I was the Saudis and I wanted to hold the price at 60, I'd throw a bit of money at Virtu and say, just stick it around there. They're doing a pretty effective job so far. I'll put up a 1-month chart of crude. I think we're going to see a substantial breakdown again. Gold 1173.17, not looking good, headed lower. FT tweeted Lira extends drop to minus 5.1% since election results. Everything changes with these results. It's the end of Erdogan, the invincible. The Shanghai benchmark has surged 151% in the past year. That's astonishing. This photograph caught my attention. Fleeing the war behind them, refugees try to cross Ice Bridge in Anbar in Iraq. Let's move on to Africa. This business of us agreeing to serve 2 terms only to realize 10 years is too short is a problem. And this is Jacob Zuma, interestingly enough, speaking. I'll put up a photograph of Bujumbura, Burundi, that I found from Dai Kurokowa of the EPA. J. Naidu tweeted, Mo Ibrahim, Africa is not rising, Africa is not falling. Some countries are succeeding, some are failing. Fair point. And then Rencat Man retweeted Calestus, and this was interesting. China's investment FDI into the continent represents 3% of total FDI. Europe 41%. I tweeted over the weekend, this African currency bloodbath is only going to get worse. And then I wrote a piece over the weekend, Sub-Saharan Africa currency bloodbath, I called it. On Friday, the US issued its monthly non-farm payroll numbers and confirmed that the US economy added 280,000 jobs in May, which number was well north of analyst expectations of 225,000. The dollar soared as high as 125.85 against the yen, a level not seen for 13 years, and rallied across the board. On Saturday morning, as I scanned the headlines on the Bloomberg Africa page, 3 of the 8 stories were related to sub-Saharan African currencies. The first headline was about the Rand. We learned that the Rand had slumped as much as 2.7% on Friday to 12.71. It's now at 12.56, the lowest level since December 2001. The second headline referenced the Angolan Kwanza and confirmed that the rate for the Kwanza weakened to 116.87 per dollar on Friday, compared with 110.518 on Friday previously. So it's 6.6% drop, a record low. And then the final story was about the Ghana cedi, which has slumped 22.8% this year. The worst among 24 African currencies tracked by Bloomberg, and is at levels not seen since May 1994, when Bloomberg began compiling the data. It was a terrible week for Ghana, it really was. The floods, the petrol station tragedy, and the only thing Ghana can console itself with right now are the mellifluous tones of its president, who has presided over this debacle. Over in Nigeria, one thing that will define the Buhari administration is how quickly the president steps up and devalues the Naira. The finger in the dike strategy is running on empty. The president needs to bite the bullet and take the Naira down big, and probably to somewhere like 275, which is an overreach but will allow the market to then find the equilibrium level wherever you care to look. Our currencies are falling off a cliff and are in free fall. Last time I checked, the only currency in Africa that had appreciated in 2015 against the dollar was the Malawian kwacha. Interestingly, the shilling was Teflon again last week, and since a heavy-duty intervention the previous week at 99 plus, and closed last week below 97. Now, given the backdrop I've just described, where the dollar is king, I am not sure how long the shilling can hang tough. Certainly, the appointment of a substantive central bank governor finally will be helpful, but these are seriously choppy waters. The MPC has called an emergency meeting, and market participants are expecting a 100 basis point increase. In these environments, I've found that the markets are red in tooth and claw, and you start by giving them 100, the market will want 500 in the blink of an eye. I'm not convinced that the economy is running away, and a rate hike at this point, or a series of them, in an attempt to defend the shilling, might just cut the legs from underneath us. Look around and tell me what is booming. Tourism has cratered. Q1 earnings at the Nairobi Securities Exchange have turned softer in the main. Making money too tight to mention at this juncture will have serious knock-on effects. I'm afraid I believe the dollar has now achieved escape velocity. Therefore, in my view, the trend is your friend, and there is going to be more blood in the water. Angola Central Bank, as I mentioned in my article, devalued currency as oil slide hits revenue. It is rare to have such a drastic move in the Kwanza. A move of this nature has not occurred since 2009. Angola, of course, is Africa's second largest oil producer. South African all shares up 3.865% so far this year. However, the currency slumped as much as 2.7% on Friday to 12.71, the lowest level since December 2001. We bounced off that level, we're now at 11. We're at 12.5689. I'll put up a one-year chart of the dollar rand. You can see we've broken out completely. We're going to 13.50 or something that no one could imagine. New York Post, and I don't know how they got this photograph, tweeted, "This photo captures the chilling moment before a lioness fatally mauled an American tourist." Pretty chilling it is too, my goodness. Egyptian pound, 763.67. Egyptian EGX 30 down 2.21% this year. Nigerian all share down 2.865% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange at 10.5-month highs. It's up 4.796% so far this year. The SEDI has slumped 22.8% this year, the worst among 24 African currencies tracked by Bloomberg. Ghana needs these floods like it needs a hole in the head. This is Nicholas Spiro, Managing Director at London-based Spiro Sovereign Strategy. It comes at the worst time from a financial markets point of view. Citigroup sees consumer companies as Africa's hottest M&A space. People see big trade blocks, increasing incomes, and a rise in urbanization, he said. Nestle, Unilever, they're already here, but others are not. And the only way to get in is by buying something. For Citigroup's investment bankers, Nigeria is the top country for mergers and acquisitions, followed by Kenya and then Tanzania. Ethiopia is the big unknown, but it will be a massive opportunity when it opens. Ethiopia is hot, Nigeria is not, for investors eyeing Africa. That's another article on Bloomberg. Ross McLean, who's the Dow's president for Sub-Saharan Africa, said it's got a government that is managing economic development in a very deliberate, cautious manner. Second most populous country in Africa, hasn't urbanized like any other African countries, but it's going to. It's a very exciting place. UAP, Kenya, is in a race to open the tallest Juba office block this month. Building initially expected to open late last year, but now expected to be ready for occupation in about a fortnight, is reported to be the first air-conditioned property in the country and features high-speed elevators. Coming to Kenya in the last 3 years, Turkish Airlines has become the biggest airline in Africa with 44 destinations. This was a KQ manager speaking in Parliament. Kenya shilling 96.97 when I looked last, but it's going to find it tough to hang in at these levels. Nairobi all share retreated 0.27% on Friday, but it's up so far this year 0.5463%. NAC 20 snapped a losing streak to turn 10 points higher. It's down 6.42% year to date. As I said, the Nairobi all-share closed lower yesterday. It's been a bear run at the exchange, plain and simple, starting at the end of March. Sleepy Friday we saw. Let's see how things pan out this week. I think it's going to be pretty key. If we don't see some kind of recovery now starting to kick in, we're going to continue to have a problem. Once again, I'm so grateful that you stopped by, and I hope to see you tomorrow, 5 o'clock, Sankara Hotel. It's going to be interesting with Stephen. If you can't make that Tuesday, make it on Saturday at the Intercontinental for Bob Godek ahead of Obama's visit. Once again, thank you.